So far we've gotten up to racing towards the end to get our frames in our stage. We've come back for another class. Now we need to set it up again. So I'm going to open up Photopea. And luckily, because I've already saved them into my own folder with my own names, I can just open up the stage and the assets file within this one browser window of Photopea. So I got to find it. I have it nicely organized into my assignment 3 folder. And then I'm looking for my PSDs, one for assets. Like I say, I usually mark that one green, one for stage. I'm identifying the latest projects I have. I'm going to open up the stage by dragging it in. And because it's a PSD file that we're opening in Photopea, it's got all my layers. These are my assets, rather, not my stage. And then to open my stage, I say File, Open, and I just find my blue one, my blue PSD that says Stage. A good place to start is to remind yourself where you are in the stage. So this was my last frame. I'm starting to recede the flames to show off just the cat. And then I have the next frame already ready here. So how do I merge those together? I select the top visible layer, scroll down to the bottom. I've got a lot of assets there. Hold down Shift just to select all of them, everything that could contribute to this topmost visible layer. And then hold down the Option key and then go to Layer, Merge Layers. It will create a duplicate right there. I want to hit Command A, select it all, Command C, copy it all, move to my stage, and paste it in on top of my last layer. Then I think I need one more. So I need to go back to my assets, and I need to deselect. Command D does not work. Yes, it does work. Command D, and then delete. So I get rid of that full combined layer. Now what can I do? I can lessen the effects on Bucky Cat here. I don't need to take them down to 0. But I can take the effects down, both the color overlay and the gradient overlay I have. As the fire dies down, I can take them down to very low percentages. And I can change this from dissolve maybe to normal. So I do kind of like the greeniness of dissolve, so I'll keep a little bit of that. And then I got to keep taking the opacity down on those flames. Keep taking them down about halfway. Keep taking it down about halfway. So we go from this now to this. So how do I get that? I go to my topmost visible layer. I hold down Shift. I select every layer underneath that visible layer. I hold down Option and I say Layer, Merge Layers. It puts it up at the top here. I say Command A, Command C, Command V. Paste it in. I've got my next frame. And then I want a full transformation. So I'm going to deselect from my assets, delete that frame. And now I'm going to take all the effects off. And I'm basically going to turn off everything, all the flames completely. And turn off this shadow behind it completely. So all I have is the white background turned on, and then my cat with some slightly singed ears. But really I can just take this up to 100% at this point. All right. Oh, and turn these effects off. Boom. Okay. So then I go to my topmost visible layer, hold down Shift, select from to the very bottom, hold down Option, Layer, Merge Layers, Command A to select it all, Command C to copy it all, and then Command V to paste it in. So I have 23 layers, which means 23 animation frames, and one background frame that I don't need. I can move that to the trash, though it's actually going to be helpful for later, so we leave it in. If I want to test my animation, I can always just use the eyeball here. And if we were in Photoshop, it's really helpful because there's a program or window tool called Timeline that allows you to program the eyeball in order to make your GIF animations. Because we're using freeware, and because in our window options there is no timeline, I keep hoping there will be, like that they'll add it in. But it's a lot of extra processing. We have to do this kind of arduous step of outputting each of these when we're happy with our frames into a separate JPEG. So I've done this before. I did this as an animation test. I did it for my animatics. So I did it up to frame 10. I was happy with up to frame 10, but I think since then I've maybe fixed the collar. No, I fixed it before I outputted these. So these are good. So I need to start with layer 11. And just to make sure, that's number 10 in terms of frames on my stage. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I turn off everything, and if you hold down Option, you can turn off everything except for the eyeball you're clicking on. But that doesn't really help me here. So I want certain ones turned on, certain ones turned off. I want to make sure that this frame matches this frame. And it looks to. Good. So now I go to the next one. And I don't need to worry about turning off the other ones underneath because remember, we selected the entire thing with that white background. So this is an entire 800 pixels by 800 pixels. That's new and opaque in each frame. It's only our assets that have kind of that transparency built into them. Okay, so this now, I need to save. I go File, Export As. Actually, before I do any of this, I should just save the PSD stage. And how do you check that it's saving in the right place? I see if my dot disappears. Or it updates. It updated. I guess if you're looking at the dot while it doesn't disappear. That's interesting. Okay. Now I can go in to my animation frames. And if you're just starting this for the first time, you would start with frame 1. But I am going to start exporting JPEGs. And I want to number them. So this one's going to be 11. Highest quality JPEG format. Save. It's going to go to downloads. And because I have an ad blocker on, so I don't get those side ads, it gives me an extra little pop-up I have to clear each time I save something. Next one, File, Export As, JPEG. You get very good at saving and file organization this way. And this one is going to be, let me open up my downloads so I can see the count as I go. Move it down here. It's going to be number 12. And you want to move quickly, but you can also just move effectively. So there's number 12. This is going to be number 13. Export as JPEG. it stands to reason that frame 13 would be the one where he looks like he got the most unlucky. And I feel like a bad person torturing this poor dog emoji. But it will pass.
What was the keyboard thing to copy the image?
So once you've merged your image completely, and you have it all on one layer in your assets, you do Command A to select it all, and then Command C to copy it all. And then you move to your stage and you do Command V to paste it. Okay, so that's layer 14. Layer 15, or frame 15, I should say. Because we're turning our layers now into finished animation frames. And it's important to number them, because that's going to help with the animation program we bring them into. Frame 16. If you wanted to create more frames, you can do what are called crossfades and turn opacity on at different levels before you output them as JPEGs, right? But that takes a little extra concentration, and there'll be ways we can play with those kind of effects in the later program. So I'm just doing the full frame at 100% opacity each time. So this is where I left off. Yep. So now this is going to be frame 17. It also limits the ambitions of your animation a little bit. You don't want to be outputting 90 frames like this. And as long as you have 9, you're fine. Frame 18. And again, as long as your animation showcases a transformation, you have met the requirements. And then it's just about using this technique and these skills to improve your work. Check really quickly. Yep. This will be 19. And it's a nice way to say goodbye to compositing projects and raster projects for a while, since we're moving on to vectors next. Because there's nothing quite like animation to make you just sick of doing something. But that might be my temperament, which is why I'm not an animator. Computer's slowing down a bit, but there it is, 20. This is 21. Let's see. Now this is where I can. This is called animating on the stage. I can actually like call an audible if you want a sports metaphor. I see that that's where I'm going, but you see how it's dark, it gets light, and then it gets dark again. In order to help transition that, instead of just taking this frame at full opacity, what I'm going to do is take this frame and add a little bit of this frame to it with opacity. And then I can duplicate this frame and make it at 100%. And then merge these two together. So I hope that makes sense to you. And I can slow, just because I'm transitioning now, I can crossfade as much as I think I need. So that's 100%. This is now 26% on top of the 100%. So I'm going to mark that just so I know it for the future, or if I want to be extra careful, I can just hit Command J and then merge the